Halle Bailey, star of the controversial Little Mermaid movie. Halle Bailey is living her very own version of a fairy tale as the star of the upcoming live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. This film has been highly controversial, but Halle has taken it all in stride and is making the most of her newfound fame and fortune. Here we take a look at her rich life and how she's enjoying her newly elevated status. Being cast as Ariel was an absolute dream come true for Halle, who grew up loving the original Disney classic. She described it as a match made in heaven and said that it's just perfect to be able to bring this character into reality. And by taking on such an iconic role, Halle has become a huge star overnight. Halle is already reaping the rewards of her newfound fame and success. The young actress has been splurging on high-end designer clothes, luxury vacations, and fancy cars, and if the latest reports are to be believed, she's also investing in real estate around America and planning to launch her own clothing line soon. But while money can buy all sorts of things, Halle is using it to further her dreams in Hollywood as well. She recently signed a 7-figure deal with an entertainment company for future projects, so we can expect even more amazing work from this rising star. All in all, it looks like Halle Bailey is living out her very own modern-day fairy tale. We can't wait to see what she does next. She is about as Disney-like as a real person can get, with her big eyes, high singing voice, and palpable purity of spirit. Therefore, it is ironic that her role as Ariel was ever considered controversial. Bailey is both the completed film's just outright victory and the best contention for this entire true-to-life change venture in one sparkling mermaid core bundle. All children, not just white children, must be able to imagine themselves as residents of the Magic Kingdom if these films are to serve a purpose other than making money off of nostalgia. However, nearly every other aspect of this flops around like a dying fish on deck. Most altogether, this applies to the triplet of entertainment characters: Sebastian the Crab, Flounder the Fish, and the Seabird. The talented voice actors are not to blame for this: Awkwafina, Daveed Diggs, and Jacob Tremblay, respectively. It's just that things that are cute or funny when done by anthropomorphized cartoon cuddly animals are no longer cute or funny when done by computer-generated sea creatures with faces that are hard to tell apart. CGI renders lifeless entire sequences of character interactions from its predecessor from 1989, such as Scuttle instructing Flounder on how to use a human dinglehopper and Flounder fleeing a shark attack. And you wouldn't be able to make much of it through the underwater cinematography's murk anyway. It hurts because the original version of The Little Mermaid is a true classic. Its song and dance numbers, which combine the wiggle of legendary drag queen Divine with influences ranging from Harry Belafonte Calypso to Esther Williams, aqua musicals from the 1940s, are among the best in the Disney canon. They have been remade with original composer Alan Menken and Lin-Manuel Miranda working together to create new foot-tapping songs like the Scuttlebutt. However, performers once more fatally undermined performances. The Northern Gannet is legitimately eminent for its abilities to jump, yet this seabird species basically can't artistically act out. It could be the beak. The Little Mermaid has talent and a loyal audience, and director Rob Marshall did a great job with Mary Poppins Returns. However, the siren call of a movie that is supposed to do well at the box office has killed it. However, there is dry land visible, and it is the same rocky outcrop on which the House of Mouse was constructed. The acknowledgement that a few stories, the most mystical ones, as a matter of fact, are best told with liveliness. But the 23-year-old singer-turned-actress knocks all naysayers into place with an innately charismatic turn and full-throttle vocal power, according to the Times film critic Kevin Mayer. He said Bailey gives a star-making turn, a phrase also used by The Independent's Clarice Lowry. She summed up the film by writing, "Nice casting can't cover up the ugly visuals and lack of creative risk." Yikes. The live-action remake of the beloved 1989 adaptation of Hans Christian Andersen's story also uses a large dose of computer animation to bring the underwater world to life. The animals are all now, of course, photorealistic, Lowry added. It's odd to think they spent so much money on making Flounder look like a real fish when they could have just bought a big mouth Billy base and achieved the same range of facial expressions. The Guardian's Ellen E. Jones was also scathing, writing that aside from Bailey, almost everything else about this flops about like a dying fish on deck. Other verdicts were varied but less damning from The Hollywood Reporter's Lovia Gyarki, who said the film has a vague, generic vibe, to The Telegraph's Alex Diggins, who said it justifies its shiny revisioning. Past Disney rehashes haven't been altogether successful, Diggins wrote. Happily, The Little Mermaid comfortably leaps clear of the lot. It serves as a handsome homage while persuasively making the case as its own discrete entity. Variety's Peter DeBruge was enthusiastic about the overall film as well as Bailey's performance. He also singled out Melissa McCarthy as villainous sea witch Ursula. McCarthy manages to hit every beat the superfans expect while surprising with every pause and inflection, he wrote. Between Bailey's wide-eyed urchin and McCarthy's over-the-top Octohussy, the movie comes alive, not in some zombified form like reanimated Disney debacles Dumbo and Pinocchio, but in a way that gives young audiences something magical to identify with and fresh mermaid dreams to aspire to. This bold move has made waves across the world as people everywhere are celebrating this departure from traditional casting and representation. Of course, it's no surprise that Bailey is more than qualified to take on such a beloved character. With her strong vocals and undeniable acting talent, she is sure to make this classic story feel fresh and new again. It's also worth noting that with her stunning beauty and beachy curls, she seems like a natural fit for the part. Audiences everywhere are excited to see what Bailey does with this role. After all, it's not every day we get to see a black woman playing a beloved princess. We can't wait for the movie to be released and to experience this unique twist on an age-old tale. As Disney continues to push boundaries and promote diversity in their movies, there is no better time than now to make sure that everyone feels included and represented. So here's to Halle Bailey. May she bring joy and inspiration to people everywhere as Ariel. And although we already know Disney's remake of The Little Mermaid is set to break stereotypes by starring a female lead of color, that's not the only major change in the forthcoming musical. In the 1989 original, Ariel ends up losing her voice for the sake of her grand love, and while that might have made people swoon back then, it has evoked more unpleasant reactions in recent years. In fact, renowned stars like Keira Knightley even forbade her daughters from watching the classic animation at home out of concern that Ariel's sacrifice carried a wrong message. In light of the same, Rob Marshall, director of the modern remake, has ensured that the upcoming movie won't be repeating that mistake. In his words, "We felt the same way," he said, of the controversial plotline in a recent issue of SFX magazine. What makes it a very modern story is that Ariel's not giving up her voice for a man. That's not what's happening here. Rather than the titular princess surrendering her voice for the prince, Bailey's Ariel in the live-action remake will give it up because she believes the sea's inhabitants are shutting the surface world out owing to the wrong reasons. This theme, which urges one to not be afraid of the other, is not only a more accurate representation of today's times, but also sends a much more valuable message that we're all one. That idea was very modern, to not be afraid of the other. When we were making this, walls were being put up and divisions were being created and people were getting more insular. This is a character who's reaching through fear. They are building a bridge as opposed to a wall. It was an antidote to what was happening in the world and to the divisions that were and are happening in the world. It is a reminder that we are all one. In the classic animation, Ariel struck up a bargain with the malicious witch Ursula, wherein she surrenders her voice entirely in exchange for a pair of human legs so that she could be with Prince Eric on land. But Disney's 21st century remake won't showcase that. Instead, Marshall's direction will be about how the two characters are more willing to fight for their love by bridging the gap between their communities as opposed to throwing their entire lives away. So while the narrative core will still be the same more or less, The Little Mermaid will have a more modern spin on it this time around. The Little Mermaid opens in theaters on May 26, 2023, so don't forget to watch it and comment below who you're most excited to watch in the film. That is all for today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more juicy news on your favorite celebrities, and I will catch you next time on The Rich Life.